from speech. And the U.S. government is ending its free at-home COVID test program, no longer accepting orders. Tests ordered before March 9th will still be shipped. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Let Express Employment Professionals help you hire for contract or full-time jobs. Forget about recruiting, sifting through resumes, and interviews with unqualified applicants. Go to expresspros.com to find the location near you. That's expresspros.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers' three-game winning streak ended Tuesday night with a 127-120 loss at New Orleans. Second straight game, the Clippers had to play without head coach Ty Lue. Lue is suffering with back pain. The NBA family lost an ultimate role model on Tuesday. Junior Bridgman, who the Lakers traded in 1975 to acquire a player named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from Milwaukee, passed away after suffering a medical emergency while attending an event in Louisville. Bridgman was 71. Bridgman played the last 2 seasons of his 12-year NBA career with the Clippers. The real story about Bridgman is what he did after basketball. He never made more than $350,000 a year in his career, but he became a billionaire after building a fast food empire. In February, Forbes magazine listed Bridgman's net worth as more than $1.4 billion. More on the outstanding legacy of Junior Bridgman this afternoon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that like George and Weezy,
we're moving on now.
Earlier this year, we were named as semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. Wait for it.
You ready?
KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th. At 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Super. Good. Inglewood. Purple rain falling down on the prince of the coast where the sun shine all year round. Purple haze over landscape, still I hydrate in the lunch line. With the smog and clouds, would start me out. This song's in the key of life, and love is in need of more. Young from Inglewood, barefoot on the cedar floor. If black music is the blood, then my heart has been beating more. Rapidly, happily, I look back on Afeni Shakur. Her son paved the way, now all eyes on me. Cause I'm young, black, and gifted, Nina, all eyes gon' see. If you swung back when faced with a challenge that's meant to break you and balance scales, you ain't average, now throw your hands on 3. Gon' put them up for black magic.
Black excellence, black habits, this black medicine, everything
Black chucks, everything.
everything
Black hug, black love, everything.
Praise black Jesus, play black Moses, give them flowers while they still give black roses. Everything
Black tie, black ride, everything. Black pride, black lives, everything.
KBLA Talk 1580. So excited to welcome into the conversation this morning. He's from San Francisco, the author and executive producer of the new book and docuseries Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, White Psychopathology, Collective Psychosis, and Trauma in America. Came out on December of 2024, which is like a minute and a half ago, ranked number 1 in Amazon's new book releases. And also Blackademics, a nonprofit organization which he founded, is meant to provide educational experiences and opportunities to educators, lawyers, healthcare professionals, and the population at large. Dante King, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Man, I mean, where to start? It just seems like it's a crazy time to be you, right? I mean, one of the things you're trying to educate people on anti-blackness and all of the solutions to it, the ways to get beyond it, and we're at a time when that automatically makes you public enemy number one.
For sure. And I think what we have to contend with initially is the reality that racism is a disorder, and particularly the idea of whiteness or white supremacy as a self-concept. We're talking about a color that a group of people who are unable to produce melanin or skin pigmentation have attached themselves to psychologically, and they have created a belief system and a value system out of it. And we have to understand that the word white as a concept, stood for things that European people, particularly the English and other ethnic groups as well, associated with goodness, with purity, with all things positive. And their concept of blackness and the way that that concept functioned across different European groups or communities was something that was derogatory or negative, all negative associations, evilness, baseness. And so we then have to understand that the main value system in America is predicated upon color, that this idea of whiteness as supreme or as great or superior has enabled an entire community to invade different regions around the world by force because their belief is that they should have everything. The main tenet of whiteness as a psychology and as an ideology is that I deserve, we deserve. And we deserve by any means necessary. And so it does not matter who dies, who becomes a casualty, even if we have to risk alienating and or harming others who are members of our community. It's about narcissism. And so we then have to understand that this is a culture that functions and is rooted in inhumanity.
Yeah. I mean, so again, back to my point, that's not a narrative that folks want to. Well, I don't want to say folks. It's not a narrative that the MAGA agenda or the current administration wants to allow. And I feel like I keep talking about this, Dante King, that there's this what I call preemptive surrender, where people, institutions, lawmakers, corporations are preemptively surrendering. Oh, well, Trump won't like it, so we're going to ban it, defund it, attack it, and delete it.
Yes. And there's an entire group behind him of white men and white women who make up the majority of the population and also of the voters in this country who are standing 10 toes down. And 10 fingers down behind him because they believe in the 1790 Naturalization Act, which was the first law establishing citizenship in this country, which stated that America was founded for white people. It named whiteness as the predicate by which people were to be granted citizenship. And so we have to understand that this ideology, this fact in terms of the legal establishment of citizenship, this is the idea that white people have been working off of, the majority of white people have been working off of and passing down through their families and through the community at large for more than 2 centuries now. So we have to understand, this is not new. What we're dealing with is not new. There have always been instances of white backlash, meaning white people rallying, others within their community, organizing, going through the courts to erode rights of non-white people, and particularly where African Americans have been concerned and are concerned. This erosion of rights. We saw it through the Reconstruction period with the slaughterhouse cases in 1873, which was one of the first cases that eroded African-American rights that were given through the 14th Amendment, the Cruikshank ruling in 1876. And we also have seen iterations of this once President Nixon was elected, after Thurgood Marshall had been appointed to the Supreme Court. And you had the Civil Rights Acts of 1964, 65, and 68. White people rallied their local communities. They took over local control in certain instances, and they rallied the Supreme Court to erode the rights of Black people over and over and over again. And so what we're going through right now, we've not experienced during our lifetimes, I would say, to this degree. And yet this has always been here, and this is the nature of people who function as malignant narcissists.
So then do you get your, do you get in your analysis that this move to end birthright citizenship is targeted toward Black people in some manner?
It's targeted toward anyone who is not considered white. Black people have never been recognized or considered through the white ideological perspective as full citizens of this country. And because we were given citizenship through an amendment and not necessarily the original Constitution, what people would consider the original Constitution, that calculation or view that you just expressed would be accurate, would be correct. And I think that we're seeing the ways in which white people who created this legal structure and who created all of our institutions have the power and the ability to manipulate it at any time. And that's what Dr. Amos Wilson talked about in his book, The Falsification of African Consciousness, that these people have the right to not only change the letter of the law, but the application of it. They're in charge of the enforcement. And so, absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think I just feel like there's a lot of denial about that, especially from folks who are, strongly advocating for Black Americans, which I don't have a problem with it as long as it's not, people being dumb. But this idea that, I'm a Black American, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not, that anti-Blackness that comes along with the removal of citizenship or deportation or the stripping and implementation of rights, as you point out, that doesn't apply to me. And I was hoping that hearing you say it might wake some folks up.
Absolutely. And we can also go here, too. You can lose your rights very easily as a citizen. Just ask any person that's been convicted of a felony. Those rights are eroded, okay? And so even when we have heard recently that President Trump has been discussing with the president of El Salvador relocating American citizens who are imprisoned, I've been telling Black men to watch out, because we are about to become more than public enemy number one. We are about to be public enemy zero, and our sons and our nephews, because these people will try and set us up and create cases or legal justifications such as obstructing justice or obstructing like a criminal infraction or interaction, charge us with a felony, imprison us, and then before you know it, we'll be being shipped down to El Salvador. All of these things are happening because white people want America to be a white country, and they always have. Like I would say to people about white abolitionists, during the antebellum period, not all white abolitionists believed that Black people should be granted citizenship. There were many abolitionists who wanted Black people gone from this country. And President Abraham Lincoln was in conversation with South American governments to try and relocate Black people prior to emancipating.
Free them and get them out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And I think the lack of a knowingness and a full understanding of history has set us up to be delusional because we are thinking of ourselves through a context of progress that has not been the case at all. Our experiences here as Black people, and we know this firsthand, has been one of rampant and constant struggle. And who have we been struggling against? We've been struggling against white people who do not believe that we deserve anything. They do not believe that we should be here competing with them in any way, and they do not want us here.
Wow, well, lots of follow-up questions there, and we'll get to them when we come forward. Author, professor, and executive producer Dante King is my guest, and we're keeping it going only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
A new day is on the horizon.
Behind every great moment in history, there's a woman whose story went untold. This March on KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing those hidden narratives to light. Hear extraordinary stories of women who transformed science, politics, arts, and community. Women you've never heard of, but should know. Celebrating Women's History Month on KBLA Talk 1580, where every story matters.
Sherry Shepherd here to talk about Black health. You know what I love about us? Everything. From science to the arts, we are leading the way. But we are falling behind in getting vaccinated. Pneumococcal vaccination rates are lower among Black adults than white adults. If you're 50 or older, you're at a greater risk of getting pneumococcal pneumonia. And the CDC recommends vaccination. If you're 19 or older with diabetes like me, you're also at increased risk. Let's continue owning our own healthcare and leading the way in vaccination rates too. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's.
The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers.
We can help you understand the disease
and give you tips for living a better life.
Find your answers at parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
I appreciate you and appreciate the conversation right now with author and professor Dante King. Dante King is the author of Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, White Psychopathology, Collective Psychosis, and Trauma in America. You came under attack for your work in San Francisco. It was, a national story, basically, these right-wing racists that come after you and take things that you've said and things that you've written out of context. Is that a fair assessment of what happens? And then they target institutions that hire you and try to get them not to hire you. And of course, when that happens, as similar to what we've seen with our mayor here, then the death threats start to come, and this sort of ghoulish pile-on of these lynch mob mentality folks becomes manifested. It seems, is that a fair assessment of what you've been through?
Yes, that is exactly what happened to me. And I want to emphasize the point that you stated about misrepresenting my work. There were some articles written by some right-wing outlets which totally misrepresented my work. Now, I understand that the majority of the white populace and others who may not have read and or studied some of the same people that I have studied and followed, that I include in my work, that I actually include to ground my work. They may not understand the perspective that I'm coming from, but what I am saying and the voices that I am uplifting looked at this problem of whiteness, looked at the functionality of race and racism, not just the object or the concept of it, but the functionality of it. How does it function? And they concluded, people like Dr. Alvin Poussant, who was a psychiatrist, a researcher, and a professor at Harvard, they concluded that we need to look at whiteness and white racism as a mental illness. And in fact, he stated that he thought that underlying white racism was a white paranoia, and that white racism was a mental aberration, and that white people were paranoid and preoccupied with the fear or delusion that black people or non-white people in the world were somehow going to destroy and hurt white people. And we hear that coming through the greater white society when they talk about great replacement theory and or, people are stealing their jobs or their opportunities. There's this preoccupation and an addiction, a focus on coloration, skin coloration, that white people have been consumed with. And I evidence this dating back to the colonial period, specifically when you have a litany of laws that are outlawing white men from sleeping with non-white, but particularly black women, and white women from sleeping with black men. There's a 1664 law that criminalizes any white women who sleep with black men. And then there's a 1662 law, that's Maryland. And then there's a 1662 law in Virginia that criminalizes white men or any European person from sleeping with black women. And they go on to criminalize ministers. They go on to criminalize the population. And then there are laws that specifically use words like complexion and color. And so we have to understand white people's obsession with and addiction to this hyper focus on color as it pertains to human beings.
So, okay, I want to go to the phones, but you're talking about mental illness on a mass basis. You're not talking about an individual, here or an individual there. You're talking about a mass psychosis, right?
That's right. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who was another psychiatrist, brilliant black woman, she was a psychiatrist and a medical doctor, and she says that white supremacy and the behaviors of white people through wars and through enacting terrorism is a total compensation for white genetic inadequacy. White, their inability, them understanding and knowing that if they intermix with people who are non-white, they will produce people who are characterized or identified as non-white, and that they believe that they couldn't be genetically annihilated. And so white supremacy is a compensation for that.
And I'm sure that some folks, even, before we went to news, traffic, and sports, just the way you're presenting it, and particularly in this hyper conservative snowflake environment, that people are characterizing your work as anti-white.
Right. And it's not necessarily anti-white. And again, I think we have to deal with that, right? Because whiteness or white in terms of its application to human beings is not biological. It's never been defined scientifically, and there's no legal definition for it. So what then are we talking about? We're talking about an idea. And so people are reacting to my analyzing and critiquing and to taking to task an idea, a psychological concept or belief, but there's no definition to it.
Right. So we're mad at you for attacking.
The lack of an ability.
Mad at you for attacking their imaginary friend, in a sense.
Right. And I think at the same time, though, I'm taking to task this concept of black and blackness, because as a few of my African friends said, when they came here at 17 or 18, they had no association to the word black.
Yeah, we've talked
about
that.
They were Nigerian.
Yeah.
They were Ugandan. And so now they're being forced to fit into a society that's been racialized for the purpose of our oppression, and how that created a tremendous trauma for them. And so I'm also taking to task this idea of blackness, because that too was projected on to African people who began to be located in this group of black for the purposes of their oppression. And we have taken on the mindsets, the ideological perspectives, beliefs, the entire value system of white people as black people. So I'm also talking about how we too participate and suffer from this mass psychosis and collective psychosis and trauma, similarly to white people.
Okay,
and
well,
we too can be...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
We too can be...
I was going to say, we too can be, and some of us are, as and even more anti-black than white people.
Okay, well, here's my issue with what you just said. Is that I understand that if you're an African coming to the United States, you might think, well, I'm Nigerian, I'm Igbo, I'm Yoruba. Even within countries, right? You've got ethnic groups, and they may see it differently. But Africans, writ large, have benefited from the black struggle in America and our leadership, and that has actually opened the doors of opportunity to a lot of people from the continent. So guess what? I don't consider that a burden for you to have to understand how blackness works in this country, whether it be in terms of community support, political movements, or the lie of white supremacy.
Yes. And, I think that is a valid point, and I think that should be held as well. But I do think that it is important to give some consideration to what those individuals' experiences have been, too, because what they were able to make me understand was that coming, for example, from those countries to America, you literally are trading a situation where everyone is like you. You're not dealing with racism at all. You might have...
Unless you're in South Africa
challenges.
or Zimbabwe, yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Right. But you still,
right.
In terms of the communities that these individuals that I know came from,
right.
They came from a population where they were the majority. And now you go from that to not only being part of a racialized society, but you are a minority in the society, and you are gravely oppressed. And that's a different orientation than the orientation that they came from.
Yeah, I get that, but put some respect on my name. I mean, look, I've traveled throughout Africa. I love African people. Put some respect on my name, because your behind wouldn't even be in this country with the scholarship, with an opportunity, with an open door, if it wasn't for the sacrifices of black Americans. And don't judge us based on an oppression that you do not even understand. You're saying, if I were you, I would do this, but you're not me. You don't have generational trauma. You don't have the BS that we deal with every day. You're not me, so you can't judge me based on your experience and say, oh, African Americans are so pampered. Oh, they don't understand. Well, you need to understand, too, and give some thanks, because my ancestors fought and died for this. We'll keep this conversation going when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Department of Education is being dismantled. Staff were told to vacate headquarters by 6 p.m. Tuesday. Over 1,300 employees were notified of their termination. President Trump plans to dissolve the department, which has 18% black employees. Oklahoma reports new measles cases. 2 people showed symptoms after exposure linked to outbreaks in Texas and New Mexico. Many infected are unvaccinated children. According to Census.gov, 7.9% of Oklahoma's population is Black. Texas's highest court has stayed the execution of David Leonard Wood, who denied being the Desert Killer. His execution for the 1987 murders of 6 women and girls has been postponed with calls for more DNA testing. And the Philadelphia Eagles will visit President Trump at the White House to celebrate their big win. Trump praised running back Saquon Barkley and quarterback Jalen Hurts this year. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Let Express Employment Professionals help you hire for contract or full-time jobs. Forget about recruiting, sifting through resumes, and interviews with unqualified applicants. Go to expresspros.com to find the location near you. That's expresspros.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers' 3-game winning streak ended Tuesday night with a 127-120 loss at New Orleans. Second straight game, the Clippers had to play without head coach Ty Lue. Lue is suffering with back pain. The NBA family lost an ultimate role model on Tuesday. Junior Bridgman, who the Lakers traded in 1975 to acquire a player named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from Milwaukee, passed away after suffering a medical emergency while attending an event in Louisville. Bridgman was 71. Bridgman played the last 2 seasons of his 12-year NBA career with the Clippers. The real story about Bridgman is what he did after basketball. He never made more than $350,000 a year in his career, but he became a billionaire after building a fast food empire. In February, Forbes magazine listed Bridgman's net worth as more than $1.4 billion. More on the outstanding legacy of Junior Bridgman this afternoon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
They say the hardest part of getting something done is getting started. Well, we did that 30 years ago when California first took on the tobacco industry. Now, smoking is down 60%, lung cancer 42%. A couple of our cities have already ended tobacco sales. A California without big tobacco isn't just possible, it's already happening. See our progress at undo.org.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce, spruce, spruce.
It's Spruce, the new hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets. When used as directed, spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Weeds die by the next day. Find Spruce wherever weed killers are sold.
You still thinking job change in the new year? Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy. IT? Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI. That's what I did. Really? How? Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up. Sweet. Are classes online or on campus? Both. Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students.
Many of the 39 BLM grassroots chapters across the nation are participating in this honoring of the memory of Breonna Taylor on the anniversary of her death. This BLMLA event is taking place on Sunday, March 16th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Norman Houston Park, 4800 South La Brea in Los Angeles, the park at the summit. For special parking options and more information, visit blmla.org or go to BLM Los Angeles on Instagram. Say her name, Breonna Taylor, and join us in loving on Black women. Happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay. Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
We are so pleased to have with us this morning Dante King. He is an executive producer, an author, an organizer. The book Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, White Psychopathology, Collective Psychosis, and Trauma in America is out now, actually came out last month. He's also the author of The 400-Year Holocaust, White America's Legal, Psychopathic, and Sociopathic Black Genocide and Revolt Against Criminal Race Theory. Miles, you wanted to chime in real quick about what I was saying regarding, and what Dante King was saying about that dynamic of his critique of blackness, American blackness, the way we hold on to this and allow it to create division and other just forms of discrimination within global black society.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that I think, the best of us should be our representation of us. And I think we go about the world based off how we're marketed to the world and how, America has sold us as a product to the world and not, the inventors that we are, the patents that we hold as black people, the way we've contributed to the whole way this world operates and may not get the credit for it. And I think even if something like that is, taught and explained to people around the world as history, as black history, as American history, that'll change the way they look at us, but more importantly, it'll change the way we look at ourselves going around the world, I think.
Yeah, so Dante King, I'm sure you have some things to say. Back, we went to news, traffic, and sports. I'd love to hear it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say I agree. And Dr. Amos Wilson, for example, likes to point to works by people like Chancellor Williams, who talks about, the contributions that various African societies made to the world prior to the colonial period. I mean, this is thousands of years ago. And then if we trace that through, and then even into our experiences here, we are a very strong people. We are an enduring people. And I want to make clear one very important point, which is that my critique of blackness is not a critique out of villainization or an attempt to villainize black people. It is an attempt to understand us as a community and the things that happened to us once we got here and were forced to assimilate into Eurocentricity. And so, modeling ourselves in every way, being forced to assimilate, speaking a language that was not ours, accepting a logic and a cultural orientation, value and belief system that was not originally ours from the African society that we came from, has helped me to understand many of the, I would say, not measured, or I would say cultural dynamics that we experience as a community, as a black community. The other point I want to make, though, because I mentioned three brilliant black behavioral health experts, Dr. Welsing, Dr. Poussant, Dr. Wilson. My work came under fire because I also referenced works by Dr. Bobby Wright in the papers that he wrote in the 1970s around the psychopathic racial personality. And there are some specific quotes that I used to ground my work. And one was, in their relationship with the black race, whites are psychopaths, and their behavior represents an underlying biologically transmitted proclivity with roots deep in their evolutionary history. The psychopath is an individual who is constantly in conflict with other persons or groups. He is unable to experience guilt, is completely selfish and callous.
Oh, man. Okay. Right in the middle of what Dante King was saying, we lost him, and hopefully we'll get him right back. on the line. I'm not sure if that was technical difficulty or, Doge cuts happening in real time to our content. But the book is available now wherever you get your books. I suggest you start at the Reparations Club, since that's what we were talking about today. The Reparations Club, Black-owned bookstore online and in person, rep.club. And you can get Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, White Psychopathology, Collective Psychosis and Trauma in America. You could get it anywhere you get books. And you can also purchase their docuseries. And that's available at danteking.com, DanteKing. DanteKing.com is the website. You can purchase the documentary series or the book in that location and support the work, or at least explore the work, because what I was getting from reading about the attacks on this man, this author, is that there is a very concerted effort to help us misunderstand his work, and and disinformation being spread about it. So that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to talk with him today, and why I was really hoping that you would join in. If you're just now tapping in, please, go and check out the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's available. Any of our past podcasts are free wherever you get your podcasts, and you can also, of course, find them on YouTube. I think we got Dante King back. You were right in the middle of making your point, and boom, we lost you.
Sorry. I'm not sure how much you heard, but I was just sharing the quote by Dr. Bobby Wright. And I think with all that I had found during my research for my book, finding Dr. Wright's work and then looking at the behaviors of white people, their evolution, and all that they have done to fixate on skin coloration, both whiteness as well as anti-non-whiteness and anti-blackness, helped me to understand that we need to be looking at this through the framework of psychopathy and sociopathy. And in Dr. Wright's work, he is saying that white people are psychopaths when it comes to their dealings with black people. And what I am saying is that I have the evidence to prove what Dr. Wright is saying is true.
Okay, well, you can understand why the certain amount of that backlash, because basically he's saying their behavior, white people as a class of people, their behavior towards black people fits the criteria for psychopathic behavior. And white folks are going to say, well, now you're saying all white people are psychopaths. I can hear the reaction. I want to go to the phones, though, before we run out of time here. We've got Shayon from Long Beach who's been waiting patiently. Appreciate you, Shayon.
Hey, good morning. And good morning to your guests. Let me just start by saying point blank that white and black is a legal status. And legal status white was created in 1681 in the Jamestown, Virginia legislature. And before that, they was Irish, English. It was known by their
tribe
nationalities, their tribal name.
Right.
And when you go into Europe, their ancient tribal names are Vandals, Visigoths, Ostrogoths, Slavs, Anglo-Saxons, Lombards. Okay.
You know what time it is, so you're gonna have to abridge a little bit for me.
Okay. What I'm saying is, they didn't become known white, and this is a fact. You can have on the scholar Jacqueline Bachelor, and she will tell you that in 2 books. Her book that she wrote and a book by Theodore Allen that was written a long time ago.
Okay, Sean, you can call me anytime. We only have Dante King today, so please get to the question or the essence of the bottom line of what you're saying.
I'm just, before the Mayflower, right here, page 40, the first blacks were known as Blackamoors, Moors, Negars. The word Negro, a Spanish and Portuguese term, did not come into a general use in Virginia until the later part of the century.
Okay,
so,
let's have him respond, because I know this is a particular interest of yours, and we could end up going for the whole rest of the hour. Dante King, you want to respond to what Shayon is putting forth about how we name blackness? I know he prefers the term more.
Yeah, and I know Jackie's work. She's a friend of mine. So her book, Birth of a White Nation, Theodore Allen's book, The Invention of the White Race. But even before that, he was referring to, I think, Lerone Bennett Jr.'s book. So you have black writers who have been saying this and writing about this for decades, for centuries. And so he's absolutely correct. That focus on skin coloration, and I will say this, it didn't come in the later part of the century, because there's evidence that shows, for example, in 1630, concerning that case with the guy Hugh Davis, where they whipped him because he had sex with a Negro person, right? But again, the focus on skin coloration and memorializing it in a way, cementing it in a way where it becomes the main value system in the culture. And so we then have to understand how race and racism functions. Dr. Amos Wilson calls it the economies of black pain, the psychoeconomics of racism, meaning that if you can define a certain people as less than, you can justify rationales to mistreat them in every way. So the institution of low-wage labor, the institution of special education, the institution of misdiagnoses, and how that feeds directly into the institution of pharmacology and, recommending, for example, that black children be put on specific medication because they function from certain Eurocentric derived behavioral disorders, such as autism, neurodivergence, etc. All of these things depend on mass agreement, and they are not legitimate at all. They thrive because white people, through a very militaristic approach and system, have sanctioned that these things are legitimate and they've agreed upon them. There's mass agreement, and that's true for just our entire culture at hand.
Dante King is my guest. We're going to continue when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
The Eaton Canyon fire devastated many black families in Altadena, taking more than just homes. It took memories, legacies, and generational wealth. The heart of a black community is now in jeopardy, but Justice Coalition, led by Gage and King LA Lawyers for the People, are here to help. If you've lost your home, we are standing by to hold insurance companies and utilities accountable for the damage caused. When the community suffers, we all suffer. Together, we can rebuild what was lost. Your recovery starts today. Call 626-429-1259. That's 626-429-1259. Or visit www.eatonfirelawyers.net. Justice Coalition, Gage and King, LA Lawyers for the People. We got you. Call 626-429-1259. Visit www.eatonfirelawyers.net. Again, 626-429-1259. This is attorney advertising. Past results do not guarantee future outcomes. Legal representation is provided by licensed attorneys.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. SMP volunteers work in their community, educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an SMP open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Talking with Dante King. And, one of the things he does is educate educators, corporations, other professionals on anti-Blackness. And that is that work continuing? I mean, I know that this anti-DEI, anti-CRT, anti-anything that appears, affirmative action that appears to be a solution to anti-Blackness is almost illegal. Are you still able to continue doing the work?
Yes, absolutely. And I want to say too, this is like a full circle moment for me. I'm not sure if you remember, but I met you about almost 3 years ago. I was on Legal Lens with Angela Reddock Wright. I actually know her, and I come down to the studio, and there was like a Juneteenth event. And so I met you and Miles and the crew. So thank you so much.
We love Angela. Angela's part of our KBLA crew that, I consider my team, my tribe. Well, all of KBLA is my tribe. But the ones that start on this show, First Things First, and then spin off into their own shows have a special place in my heart. And Angela Reddock Wright is one of those. Legal Lens is her show on the weekends. Yeah, well, hopefully next time you come to town, you can stop through and talk to us here in studio as well. Fahima is calling from Washington, D.C., and she wants your ear for a moment.
Yes, Habarigani and K-Pasa, Dominique, and greetings to your guests. Yeah, I think that you and I obviously came of age, sir, around the same time because being exposed to people like Amos Wilson, Bobby Wright, and the Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and it appears that you are continuing her work. And I agree with your underlying thesis, but I just wanted to push back on the notion that, yes, in most African countries, they're coming from a homogenous culture, a homogenous country. But you had the Black consciousness movement under Steve Biko. Sudan means black. And so this notion that, there was no idea and black wasn't used on the continent is fallacious, is being pushed by some nefarious efforts, which I won't bother to get into. But I agree with your underlying thesis, and I'm sure that you're familiar with the book, The Creation of Whiteness, that documents how back in the 1700s, this was developed as a form of a tool of social control. And that's really, I agree with everything you said. I just want to push back with that. Because even Chimaranga Adichie Agosi, she talked about she wasn't considering her blackness till she came to America. But there's a distinction between race, ethnicity, and nationality. And I put that in the comment for as many characters they allowed me to use.
Okay, thanks, Fahima. Your response to Fahima's points.
I agree with you, but I want to be clear about what I said. I did not say that blackness was not used on the continent. What I said is that the two individuals that I am in relationship with stated to me that it's not a moniker by which they identify, that they did not associate that term to their identity. Darkness, and for example, my friend Robertson, he stated to me that in the Akan, his people, the Akan people, in their community, darkness was beautiful. The darker you were, the more beautiful you were. But the standard, the term of black or blackness was not an identifier. And so they identify based on their nationality or place of origin.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that I would agree with Fahima. I mean, I'm getting ready to go on my 8th trip to the motherland in June. Can't wait to go. But I think it varies a lot from country to country. And I do notice that the people that one of the things that I appreciated traveling around some places, particularly Ghana, is the reverence of Black American leaders. I saw it to some degree in Nigeria at the Fela Kuti Shrine. You see it everywhere in Ghana at some of these ancestral burial grounds and slave sites. The photos of Dr. King and Malcolm X and W.E.B. Du Bois, and the clear uplifting of that legacy and how it pertains to African, Black people who also had to fight for their independence. If you go to South Africa, Black is very much a thing because it's a legal status, even post-apartheid. So I suppose it does vary. And, I think what I was getting from Fahim is that we have to track the motivations of folks that say that, because people say it for different reasons.
Got you. Yes, I totally agree. I would also say this, though, too, to Fahima and to all others who are listening, please read my book. Go to DanteKing.com and get the book, read the book so that you can fully comprehend and understand what I am putting forth before you, form an opinion about it or contend with it.
Okay, well, we only have a couple minutes, so it's not fair for me to ask you this, but I'm going to anyway, which is talk to us a little bit about solutions. Like, how do you cure mass psychosis, if mass pathology, collective pathology, if that's in fact what it is?
Well, and that's why I put out my book and that's the corresponding docuseries, because my work is a work of reorienting ourselves psychologically, because what we're talking about are psychologies, are various ideologies that are rooted in people's belief systems, in the mindsets that have been developed around people's self-concepts and concepts of other people. And so I'm working to explore, what it means to invoke a liberation psychology, a re-education of ourselves as individuals, so that we can begin to contend with all the ways that we have been colonized, the ways that we've been dominated, the ways that we've been forced to accept untruths. Dr. Amos Wilson says, when the leaders of a society lie to the inhabitants of that society, and when they miseducate the people who inhabit that society, they are able to get those people, to corrupt those people enough to get them to believe, accept, and adopt anything, and to participate in the same types of activities that they too are leading, whether it be here in this region or around the world. And so we have identified and we have created our identity. Our identity functions out of the things that we've been taught through white institutions, by white institutions, even by the functioning of white logic. And even if we go to works by Carter G. Woodson, right, The Miseducation of the Negro, he lays that out in a very basic argument within roughly 100 pages. And it's so clearly seen. So don't just read my work. Go to the back of my book, start investigating many of the references that I use and refer to, and go read the works of those individuals. And I appreciate that she mentioned Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, because I reference his work a lot in my work as well.
DanteKing.com is where you can find the book and the documentary series. And Dante King, thank you so much for this full circle moment. I really appreciate you spending the hour with us.
Thank you, Dominique.
Yeah, and so I'm going to go out today with a quote from Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, since he's invoked her spirit, and I had the opportunity over the years to interview her a couple times. Of course, she's no longer with us. She's an ancestor, but this is from the Cress Theory of Color, Confrontation, and Racism. Racism, she says, is a universal operating system of white supremacy and domination in which the majority of the world's white people participate. Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got a jam-packed Wednesday show for you as usual. Don't forget to tap in with me on all the social media. We're at KBLA 1580 everywhere. And of course, get the app, KBLA 1580. You can find me at DiPrima Radio, DiPrima, and then radio. Please follow, like, subscribe, and talk your smack. Like my mama used to say, history is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, Dr. Gerald Horn will join us tomorrow. Until then, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Department of Education is being dismantled. Staff were told to vacate headquarters by 6 p.m. Tuesday. Over 1,300 employees were notified of their termination. President Trump plans to dissolve the department, which has 18% black employees. Oklahoma reports new measles cases. 2 people showed symptoms after exposure linked to outbreaks in Texas and New Mexico. Many infected are unvaccinated children. According to Census.gov, 7.9% of Oklahoma's population is black. Texas's execution for the 1987 murders of 6 women and girls has been postponed with calls for more details.